views and opinions expressed on the following program are those of the hosts and guests, and not necessarily those of the staff or management of alltalkradio.net.
Looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have been, knowing that this day will never come again, as my spirit's guiding me to a place where I am free to be all that I can be.
Hi, this is Lainey Risto, and you're watching and listening to Soul Chat. And today I have my good friend and favorite psychic.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, so tell me your
Kind
name.
of you.
And my favorite psychic's name is?
And I am Mary Rose.
Yeah. So we're here today. We're going to talk about, some of you got notices about the full moon is going to be on the 4th. And this is a big one.
This is a big week.
It sounds like every time we talk about the full moon, we always say it's going to be a big one. But what's interesting is that this particular full moon is what they call the blood moon. And we have like about 4 lunar eclipses a year. And this is the second one.
Right.
And what's happening is what's really important to look at if you're going to watch the moon and watch this kind of energy that builds. This has been building up. It started actually last fall.
Right.
Because we had 3 supermoons in a row. Then we had a lunar and a solar eclipse. And last full moon, the last full new moon that we had on March 20th, it was the new moon. It was a solar eclipse. It was a supermoon, which means the moon is at its closest point in its orbit to the Earth. And it was also the spring equinox. So that was pretty power-packed. And I actually had an incident last week that I'll tell you about. But to follow that now, we have a lunar eclipse 2 weeks later, and this moon is in Libra, and it's quite the moon. It's anything that's been hanging by its toenails in terms of a relationship is the way it looks like to me, and I'll let Mary Rose add to this. But anything that's hanging on by a thread, it's either going to get itself together or it's going to go away.
Well, that's
one
true
of the
with
two.
anything, even if it's a job.
Right.
Even if it's a something you've been doing for a long time, trying to get it going. You're either going to make it or break it on this one.
Right. Before we launch into that, if anybody wants to call in, you can call in at 702-609-7626, or if you're on Skype, you can type in All Talk Radio, one word. With that, I'm going to do my usual segment of what did I learn about myself last week? Well, last week was really interesting. Because when I was on last week, I told people that I was really looking at how I stayed in my comfort zone. That kept me from creating magic in my life.
And moving forward.
And so I started looking at that. And on Wednesday night, I was at Spirit Us Reiki Center and did a healing circle there. And the next day, I was going someplace. I can't remember where I was going. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. I haven't had any phone calls. And they were supposed to pick my car up and take it in and work on it. And nobody showed up and nobody called. And finally, on Friday morning, I got a call from somebody that said, I've been trying to call, I got a text message from somebody saying, I've been trying to call you. And it rings 10 times and it goes to a busy signal. Not to mention on Thursday night, the internet service in the area went down. Mm-hmm. So 2 separate electronic systems in my life just went kaput. So for about 24 hours, the only way anybody could get a hold of me is if they text me or they walk to my front door and I open it and talk to them face to face. But out of that, I came away from that understanding, and I got a whole lot of paperwork cleaned up this week because I'm tired of paper. I'm really sick and tired of paper.
You don't want to go paperless?
No, well, as much as I can, but I've been packing things around, and since my mom passed away and I was financially responsible for everything that was going on with her, I've got all of that, so I went through that and I got rid of it, and I just have noticed that I have this growing sense of having a really deep root into the center of the earth. I find I'm learning I have this strength that I didn't know I had.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't even, that isn't even really, it's not confidence, it's something else. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a really solid knowing, and if somebody tried to push me over, they could try.
Well, right now we are centering to the center of the earth.
Yeah.
It gives us a better foundation. We can move forward easier. It gives us a better ground. Other people can't knock us off as easy because,
Yeah.
the veils are falling down.
Yeah.
And people are definitely coming through with their emotions and their fears and their concerns and troubles. So what I found out this morning was, as I was doing prayers, I come under psychic attack real often when people start having troubles in their life. They pull on me because they think I have the answer, but they don't call me. They just pull on me.
They just
with
pull
the
on you.
energy.
Okay, they just show up. How do you feel that? How do you know that's happening? What is it you're feeling?
I usually get a real bad headache, and depending on how strong they are, it almost takes me down. I have to go to sleep to get rid of it.
Really?
But today I found an easy way to get rid of it, and you're going to like this. What I did was, instead of trying to send the energy back, I just took the energy in my hand, I pulled it over, I grounded it to the center of the earth, and it started going to the center of the earth for them instead of to me. So that was
Perfect.
awesome. I got rid of that headache very fast. If you get migraines a lot, or if you get very, very hard headaches, that is always someone thinking about you, and it's time to learn how to defend yourself.
Right. And you don't have to be a victim to it. I think that's really important.
They don't even know that they're doing it.
No,
they just
they
know
don't.
that they're in despair or in need or hurting, or something's going on they don't understand. And so they pull on the strongest person they know. Sometimes it's the strongest person in their family. Sometimes it's a friend. Sometimes it's their psychic healer or their psychic friend.
Right.
And it really can be just devastating to us when you guys pull on us like that. But now that I've learned how to center you and put you in the center of the earth with that energy, that's awesome for me.
Something that I tell people to do when they ask me, when I have all these worries and I just can't seem to break it, I will tell them, and a lot of people have heard me give them this exercise, is tell them to go outside, if you can in this town, and find a tree. And put your back to it. And then literally close your eyes, take a deep breath, and merge. Just imagine yourself merging with the tree and sending it down through the roots of the tree into Mother Earth. And ask her, please heal this. Please take this and do what needs to be done. I don't ever send energy back to where I think it's coming from, because I don't want to be the next spiritual intrusion.
Exactly.
Yeah. So either that, or sometimes I give people a fire ceremony where they can light a candle, they can look in the flame, and they can send whatever it is that's bothering them into the flame and ask Spirit to take it and heal it and send it back like a spiritual mailbox. That'll do it too.
And another one I use also is that we put a bluish green flame at the bottom of the cross, and we send it into that bluish green flame.
Yeah.
And that also centers it to the center of the earth.
Fire is very clearing. It's very clearing and cleansing. So, yeah. So it's been an interesting week, because it's been wow.
It's about to get more interesting.
I know it is.
We have 5 big hits this week. You talked about the full moon.
Yep.
We have Easter within probably 24 to 48 hours of that.
Now, talk about that a little bit, because you have more of a background in it than I do. What is the energetic significance of Easter?
Easter is always the beginning of the new year for the earth. It actually starts on the spring solstice on March the 20th. But Easter is always when things get started. So a lot of people think it gets started in January when we have the new year. It does not.
Right.
Everything gets started right after Easter, and then it's usually a really big push until the 4th of July.
And why is that? Because Easter is really it's a Christian holiday.
Well, Easter is a Christian holiday, but this started eons ago, when the new year started for the earth on the spring solstice, which is March the 20th.
Yeah.
And so that's why things get going. Also, the banking, we talked about this before, the banking really starts around the 1st of March or the 1st of April. And that's because in January and February, they're making all the new rules and regulations by all the top 10 banks for all the banks in the world. So that means your money doesn't flow until about March or April. then you have the spring solstice, and then you have Easter. So both of those two times are big pushes to get energy flowing, for things to start happening. It's when things start blooming. It's when things come back to life. And even on Earth, things come back to life at that time.
Right. That's when the seeds get planted. That's when things start growing. That's when it starts blooming. And then it's the life cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's the life cycle. Well, let's go back a minute to the solar eclipse that happened on the 20th.
Okay.
And like I said, that was a big time because of the equinox, like you were just talking about. And it was a supermoon, and it was a solar eclipse, and it was a new moon, and it was, it was a lot of things happening. And that one was all about letting go of what you've been holding on to that's holding you back. That was about getting that stuff lined up. And this one, it was kind of like a system reboot for all the techies out there. It's like rebooting the computer energetically is what it was doing. And it's impossible to move forward in a new way without letting go of something. There's always a death before a rebirth. There's always, that's the way it's going. Well, this lunar eclipse is really about the rebirth. And anything that you haven't let go of needs to be let go of so that this rebirth can happen. And the interesting thing about it is because this full moon's going to be in Libra, which is all about balance. And Aries,
love.
And love. And so I wrote this down. I was looking at this on the net here. It says, what's interesting is that they said it's like you've got two signs across from each other, Aries and Libra. And the question Aries asks is, what am I getting out of this? And the question Libra asks is, what are other people getting out of this?
Right.
So whatever we're letting go of is about making that balancing act happen. And I can put that in perspective here. I have something that I've been talking to Mary Rose about, something that I have been looking at and studying for a long time, with the understanding that at some point I was actually going to make it happen. And I'm not actually going to say what it is because I'm still thinking about it and I'm still working at it. But the person that I've been studying with has a lot of expectation on me about when are you going to get started. And I'm not in a spot right now where I can do that. So the balancing act that I'm doing is, well, when do I want to do this? And I don't want to disappoint this person, because the way I'm organized internally and where I'm wired is I want to make sure everybody's happy. And sometimes you can't. But sometimes you can't.
Now more than ever, it's more about your stuff and their stuff. It's not her stuff wanting to get you started or your stuff. It isn't your stuff because you have other things that you have to get finished before you can get started. Get to my, and it's her stuff because she feels like maybe you're not going to do it if you don't do it in her time frame, but that's also control.
That's right. So those are the issues. That's a pretty good analysis right there, and an example. It is that kind of thing. It's not like, should I sell the old car and get a new one? And actually that's a rebirth, because a lot of us can't afford to keep an old car and turn around and buy a new one. And a new car
is always your new wheels of life, your new vehicle of life. So when you get a new car, it's Spirit telling you, okay, it's time to go into the new. It's time for change. It's time for drastic changes, in fact. So this situation I'm going in, I definitely know that I want to do it. It's just that this timing for me right now is not right. And I get to balance it out with, I'm feeling that expectation from her because she knows I can do it. She wants me to. It's her stuff, like you said. But I'm not ready. It's not my time. So I've got to make some peace there somehow. Well, and you don't want to overload your plate, especially now, because now that Easter's coming, now that we're going to have the full moon this week, you're going to see that things are going to start going much faster than they have. Yeah. So it's kind of like, okay, can I keep up? Can I keep up? Can I keep up? Or am I going to stumble and fall? So you don't want to overload your plate at this time. You want to kind of keep it as simple and down to earth as you possibly can, because with all the speed coming in, are you going to be able to keep up? And the other thing about this full moon is it's a continuation of the new moon, which started, what is it I need to let go of? But this one particularly relates to endings. Any endings that you have put in place or haven't yet but are going to, they're going to start now. It's going to happen now. This is really about putting those endings into motion. And you may not even know you have intention to start endings or to put those in motion, but Spirit's going to show you that, and you're going to be pulled into that whether you're ready or not. So right now it's all about the sand sifting with this new energy that came in, the Aquarius age. All of us are going to feel sand sifting under our feet for the next 3 years. You're going to feel like you're on solid ground, but you're not, because it's sifting.
Yeah.
Shifting.
Shifting and sifting is what it is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other thing I thought was interesting is that the blood moon, what this means is that the sun, you have the sun and you have the earth, and then the earth is actually between the sun and the moon. So when we have this blood moon, it means it's going across the shadow that the sun is throwing, or that the earth is throwing, however you want to look at it. And it literally will turn orange.
Right.
And some of you saw it in October. It was gorgeous.
It
was
was
out
beautiful.
there.
I was out there.
2 in the morning watching this thing. I had a beautiful view from my house. This one is it's considered the shortest lunar eclipse on record. It's going to be total eclipse for us for about 5 minutes.
Wow.
But it'll take it says the total eclipse is 3 hours and 29 minutes, but it's going to take a good hour and something for it to get to the place where you see it totally orange, and then for just a short period of time, and then it's going to start coming off of it. Can you imagine what it was like for the Native Americans when this happened, and they never knew when it was coming?
Well,
they
had an understanding of Earth and animals and plants that a lot of people didn't understand. So they did know it. They did understand it. And it did make things, their understanding of the Earth and the Moon and the Sun. They had a great understanding of that. The clouds, the rainmakers.
But they looked to the spiritual people of the tribe to tell them what was happening. But can you imagine? I mean, that must have been magical. It must have just seemed like magic. We're knowing that it's coming. I mean, you can look on a chart for next year when it's going to be.
Yeah.
But they didn't really know, only by the signs that whoever was knowledgeable enough to look up at the heavens.
Or if they had visions.
Or if they had visions,
because they had visionaries in each tribe that helped to put the tribe on track. And
it was called a shamanic healer.
Yeah, it's called a shamanic healer.
Only the Native American tribes, the shaman is not their word. They like to be called a medicine man, a holy man, a medicine woman, holy woman, or they used to say, go see Mary, or go see Joe, or go see the man, or they didn't have the term. And Native Americans really don't like being called shaman, because it's a Siberian word. It's from the Tungus tribe of Siberia, and it's something that came about when all the archaeological digs were happening in the 20s, and they would find these pictures, and they discovered this word. So unfortunately everybody in the world now applies it to anybody who's a spiritual native person,
or a healer,
because I don't call myself that. I'm not. I call myself a shamanic healer because I do the shamanic practices, but I've not been raised in it since I was born. So that's different.
But you've done it other lifetimes. So
sure.
The memory of that, I'm sure, has come back, and the knowledge that came with that.
It comes back easily. Yeah, it comes back easily.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So endings in motion. So think about something that you've got in motion. One of mine was I was saying, I've decided I got too much paper. I actually took out 2 big boxes of paper out to the recycling this week because I managed to get through it. And it really did feel like I was cleaning out my arteries. It really did. It had that feel to it.
Yeah, everything feels like we're lifting weights off of us, and some of us have been carrying this weight, whether it's the weight of others or the weight of paper or the weight of a job, for a long, long time. So we're really lifting that off of ourselves.
And things are happening suddenly. I mean, George was just telling us before we went on about something suddenly that nobody saw. He didn't see it. You didn't see it coming, right? Yeah. And it's going to have an effect for a while.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, everything is changing. I mean, even the way radio is being done now, that's, the mom and pop radio station and the local radio station, that's going to be gone so fast, because you're going to see internet radio stations all over the world, and the local stations are not going to be anymore.
In some ways, it's going to come back only because the internet makes it so easy to do, but it won't be. We call it terrestrial radio. Terrestrial radio is kind of, unless they have an internet presence, I don't think it's going to carry on.
Well, it has to go internet because we're coming together more and more all the time. You're seeing the
Right.
languages coming together. You're seeing the people come together. And it is actually getting to be a smaller world
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah. Well, and we're in the Aquarian age. Remember, we talked about that. I mean, something like the internet, something electronic like that is so typical of that kind of era, you know, that quick and that fast. And Spirit just loves, I find, it loves the internet.
Oh,
mean,
I do too. And they love that people can communicate now, where before there were many times they couldn't even communicate from city to city, let alone worldwide. And Spirit is very happy that people are coming together.
Well, wasn't it the Bosnian War, the war in Bosnia, wasn't that the one where it actually stopped because they couldn't hold the information back? Because they couldn't keep the information from the people.
Right.
And I think that's the one where the first time that internet presence from person to person played, they couldn't stop it. They couldn't hold it back. They couldn't keep people from knowing what they needed to know. And that's how it stopped. That's part of how it stopped. Anyway.
Well, last year, or was it the year before, Egypt cut off people being contacted by YouTube and by Facebook. And the Egyptian people really rioted over that because the whole country of Egypt was not allowed to use those two, and that's how they communicated, and that started a big riot in Egypt, and that was just within 12 to 24 months ago.
Yeah, and there it is again. It's the electronics that is part of the Aquarian age, and that's what's going to be. That's what's and information is in the hands of the people now.
It is
truly,
and they are not willing to release that again.
And I also, the double-edged sword on that is there's a lot of misinformation out there too. You know, I keep telling people, I have people calling me all the time, I just saw this on the internet and this is what's going to happen. And I said, and where on the internet did you see that? And how do you know that that's true?
Well, that information has always been out there. It's just been transformed in different ways, usually through gossips or through misdirection or something. But that's always been there. It's just that we're more aware of it now.
Yeah, I mean, there were the gossips in the town, the Old West, even the gossip that went around, you know, had a flavor to it. But you really have to check these things out.
Yes.
And I think that this goes along with the Aquarian age of man listening to himself. Nobody needs to be between you and your intuition and God.
Spirit.
There's a connection there that all you have to do is ask. And everybody, you know, and I think a lot of people are now, especially what I've noticed is men, warriors, the warrior type guys,
the warrior guys
that are showing up saying, I get these feelings, you know, I have this intuition. I said, you always had that intuition.
Yeah, but they weren't willing to accept that before. So now that also is changing.
I wonder why. Why now?
Because they're more comfortable with it. When they were in the other days or the other times, what happened was that if men had emotions or if they showed feelings, or that was a sign of weakness, so they were taught not to do that, not to allow their feelings or emotions to come forward.
There was somebody that we had on here, and both George and I reacted to it, where they said men just weren't that emotional. Remember that?
Oh, that's
and
not true.
I actually watched him sit up.
Yeah, that's not true.
So that's not true.
It was just considered a sign of weakness if men showed emotions or intuition or spiritual abilities. It was just...
Yeah, I've got some powerful men in my life right now that are powerful in the way because they are very intuitive.
Exactly.
And they're waking up, and I will, the healing circles I do, I will take them on a guided journey, and they're always making connection.
I have some too, and they're wonderful warriors. They're wonderful to use as grounding, which you used with me last week.
Yeah. It's an interesting process to watch, an interesting waking up, so to speak, you know, or reawakening. I really think it's a reawakening.
Well, it is a reawakening, but we haven't been awake since before the Tower of Babel, a lot of people, so they're getting their connection back with spirit and with their self. And, of course, the key to that is loving yourself, because when you love yourself, you love other things, and that comes forward.
Right. So the Tower of Babel, what was it about the Tower of Babel?
The Tower of Babel was when they were building the tower to God, and they wanted to reach God, and he came down and made the Tower of Babel, blew it up with lightning and said, that's not where I am. I'm in your heart and I'm in your head. And from that time on, they had the people speaking different languages, and they had to go with whatever language they spoke with.
Okay.
That's when all of our powers and our longevity and the ability to help ourselves was all taken away. We went back to struggle at that time instead of magic and miracles.
So and you've been talking to me since last fall, telling me about magic and miracles.
Yes.
There was a sequence of dates that happened. I remember.
It started in December of 2012 was actually when that energy came in. It was supposed to have come in full-heartedly on the first day of the year 2000, but because of the cross energies of the old and the new, we didn't feel it. So it really was opened on December the 12th of 2012. And from that point on, we came back into the Aquarius age, and now we are in the Aquarius age.
Right. And then there were several things that shifted last year, because I remember you were telling me about Valentine's Day, something came in.
Mm-hmm. That was
was
an
big.
energy shift that came in for love.
So, and there's been several arrangements of different stars and planets that have been unheard of. Like on March 20th, I can't remember. I think it was the last time that configuration happened was 1985, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, so when we had, and there's a big Uranus-Pluto square that's happening in astrology now, and those things move. They move in comparison to the moon and the sun. They move so slowly.
Oh, very
it's more.
slow.
It's more tied to the age than it is to a month.
And what Pluto and Uranus mean squared is that Uranus is the planet of change, and Pluto is the planet of death. So you have to let go of the old, as you was talking about, to bring in the new for the new change and for the new energies and for the new shift.
So this moon is really just an extension of that, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just going to.
Everything this year is going to be an extension of that.
So what do you see? Where do you see things? In the fall. When do you think we're really going to notice big change? Because I think change happens in small steps, by and large.
Well, some
but
of them do, and some of them
Yeah.
happen in big steps. And, you know, we have Jupiter coming out of retrograde April the 8th, so to say that this week is going to be a big week from today for 7 days forward, it is really going to be a big week because we have that eclipse. You have
Easter?
the full moon. You have Easter, which is always a big shift. Then you have Jupiter coming out of retrograde within 2 to 3 days after that. There's just a lot of big things happening right now.
Which is really interesting because I'm only here for another week and then I'm gone for a week. And I'll be, so on the 8th, I'll be up in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going up for some shamanic Celtic training.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be gone then. So I'm feeling this big push this week to get, I can't tell you why. You may have just said it.
Mm-hmm.
To get certain things done because I know once I get back, I have this feeling like once I get back, I'm not going to have that much time.
Well,
to
it's
focus.
almost like in energy, this is what it looks like to me. It's almost like you've been standing in line, waiting for your turn. And this week brings your turn for everybody because it's going to open the floodgates to whatever it is you want to do. It's going to open the floodgates to moving forward, starting new things, new creations, new thoughts, new anticipations. I mean, it is definitely opening the floodgates. And that also means spiritually and financially.
Yeah, I noticed that I'm focusing on things. One of the things I'm really looking at is some of the financial stuff, the way I've been dealing with it. And I definitely have a desire to do it differently, especially after I got my car bill yesterday.
Yeah.
That was a shocker.
That's always a biggie.
Yeah. Cheaper than buying a new car, but I mean, you know. But the car's running now, so I'm all set to go for probably till the next big thing will be a new car. Although you saw me driving a new car sooner than that.
I did. I see you driving a new car very soon. Matter of fact, it could be before the end of this year.
Oh, wow. I just put, okay, never mind.
Your new vehicle of life. You got to get going. What can I say? You got to have something to go in.
Yeah, I guess so. You got any questions for Mary Rose while we're here, George? Do you have anything? No? He's over here quietly just turning knobs.
Over here playing with all this stuff.
Yeah. Was it new?
No, well, this one is. I'm trying to get like some other things going and getting the board's different. That's why the sound is totally different. The big guy's sitting over there now, so.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But it is about change. See, he's doing the same thing. He's getting ready for new stuff to come in. Because do you feel it, George?
Yeah, actually I do. And it feels strange because you just feel like you're about to be overwhelmed.
Yep.
And you know something's coming. You just don't know how much of it or what it's going to be, but you do feel that overwhelming feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just don't recognize what it's going to look like, but you feel it coming.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are feeling that too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And with Jupiter coming out of retrograde, of course, that's going to make people's money flow. I know since the first of the year, I get call after call after call of people that are having financial difficulties. And what that was to get rid of your old patterns from the past.
Yeah.
If you had some old patterns that were causing you financial difficulties, they were shoring you up and getting you ready for this new energy. So Jupiter coming out of retrograde is definitely going to switch that category, and it's going to move people forward with their finances, their money, and opportunities.
Well, that's good, because I've been invested in a movie. I think I told you, an independent movie since 2004. And it was supposed to sell probably in 2006 and 2007. Well, things happen, you know.
Yes.
And the first time they went to Los Angeles, it's all done. It's finished. It's done. The first time they went to Los Angeles, they went to a couple of real reputable filmmakers, you know, a couple of production houses, and that you would recognize. And they got some nibbles. They left the doors open, but there wasn't anything solid. Now they're going back in a couple of weeks, so it'll be on the other side of
they're coming
April
in
8th.
this new energy with the new moon from the eclipse and from the spring equinox, and then now the full moon. So the full moon kind of gives you a punch to get started.
Yeah, well, it could use a punch.
It could definitely use a punch.
We all could use a punch a little bit, you know.
Nice Hawaiian punch, too.
Hawaiian punch.
Hawaiian punch.
Yeah. So it's so for everybody out there, just know that if things are feeling a little off, just hang in there. Hang in there. I would have, like I said last week, I would have people call up and say, wow, this is really strange. I can't figure out what to do next. I just want to sit. And they say, what do you think I ought to do? And I'd say, well, I would be sitting if I were you.
I would be sitting because they're really getting you ready for what's coming. I have a visitor at my house, as you know, that just came in last weekend. And I've had a back door that's been stuck. I couldn't hardly open it all because the rollers were broken underneath. And they took that door off and they put in new metal rollers instead of the plastic ones. And I'll tell you what, the doors are opening so fast now and so easy, and that's
it's
what
a
we
metaphor.
all want. But it was a metaphor for the things opening fast and easy
right.
now. The doors are open, you guys, and you're going to see doors open that have been closed for centuries that you're going to see open now.
But let's say this too. The old joke about the guy in the rowboat, the one that asked God to save him, and and for those of you that haven't ever heard it before, he asked God to save him, and the next thing he knows, I think it's a rowboat. A rowboat shows up, and he says, "No, God's going to save me." And then a motorboat shows up, and then a helicopter shows up, and then the guy drowns because he doesn't take any of them.
God, why didn't you send me help? I asked for it, and he said, I did 3 times.
I sent a rowboat and a helicopter. And
I sent you help 3 times.
So it's not that you sit back on the front porch with a fruit punch and expect not to have to do anything. You still have to do your work.
Yes, you do. And those that have not done any work, their spirituality is opening up, and it's very strange to them. I get calls like that all the time.
Me too.
That what's happening to me, that I've never done this before, I've never felt this way before. Well, everybody's opening up right now. This is the Great Awakening.
It is. And everybody would say around December of 2012, they would call me up and they'd say, you think the world's coming to an end? And I'd say, well, that'd be awfully easy, wouldn't it?
Well, actually, the world already came to an end because we're in a new cycle now, you
That's
guys.
right.
That's what was happening. We're in a new cycle on the Earth, which is the Aquarius age, and we're done with the Dark Ages. So they call this the Golden Ages. I call it the Light Ages, but Spirit calls it the Golden Ages. And now you're going to see things coming into a more harmonious balance than ever before, and people are going to be getting their gifts back.
Yeah. And it's not, I think the trick to it is, if there is such a thing as a trick to it, I think the thing is about being open and not being attached to how you want it to come.
Well, and it's also about letting go and flowing with what's going on and not hanging on to stuff. Back in October, I had this couple come to me, and the lady says to me, she said, I keep praying to God, but he's not talking to me anymore. And so I read her cards, and I said, well, he's talking to you, but so's the devil, and God's not saying what you want to hear, so you're listening to the devil.
Right.
That's just a metaphor for good and evil. But she's still listening to the negative, and everything I told her, of course, she didn't want to do. She wanted to prove me wrong, and so now she's proving herself wrong. I said, doesn't matter if your husband goes home and does 3 jobs, you're still going to be sent back to Las Vegas, because they live in Utah. And they had come over here for prosperity. They were starting to get a really good hold, but she wouldn't let go of Utah. She wouldn't let go of Utah, wouldn't let go of Utah. I said, well, he can go back home and get 3 jobs. You're still not going to be doing any good. So in about 3 weeks after we went back home, and he did get 3 jobs, by the way, and they're still treading water. Both cars blew up, and now they're even in worse shape because they couldn't move forward. She couldn't let go of the past. So the one thing I would say to you is don't hang on to anything. You don't need it. You've already got a safety jacket on, and you are safe. Just let go of everything.
This is really about trusting if you're walking in the fog.
And faith.
And this is trust and faith, and this is taking a step. You know there's solid ground under your feet. The sand may be shifting. It may be a little foggy, but you may not be able to see 30 feet ahead of you, but you can see 1 foot.
Right.
And the thing is to really truly let go of how you think you want things. I always think about Oprah saying, when I got myself out of the way, God had a much bigger vision than I could even think of.
Absolutely, and I've heard that so much. I had a friend a long time ago. She said she asked God to bring her some excitement in her life. And she said, God, bring me some excitement in my life. God, bring me some excitement in my life. Well, next thing she knew, she had so much drama in her life, she didn't know what to do.
You got to be careful how you ask for it,
You got to ask for the right kind of excitement in your life, not drama.
Well, I was asking in 2005 and 2006, things were shifting and I could feel it. And I wasn't excited about anything. I couldn't feel any joy. I mean, it's happy, but not that, wow, I love getting up in the morning. And,
yeah, but they took all of our emotions away, remember? 2012, 13, 14, and now starting in 15 more than ever, they took the emotions away because emotions create confusion, and they also create wars. So they've been taking a lot of those emotions away.
And what happened was in 2007, that was when I broke my ankle.
Uh-huh.
And I had nothing to do because I couldn't walk. Me and a glass of water couldn't get across the room at the same time.
You think they wanted you to sit still and
absolutely,
listen?
Because there was absolutely nothing that I could. I had nothing to do. I couldn't. It's kind of like Margaret Mitchell when she wrote Gone with the Wind. She actually broke her ankle stepping off a sidewalk in Atlanta. Uh-huh. And her editor showed up, and that was the late 30s, with a typewriter and said, if you're going to be in bed, and she was, 6 months to a year.
Might as well make use of it.
Might as well do something, and that's when she wrote Gone with the Wind. Mm-hmm. So it's those kinds of things, if you don't listen to the whispers,
yes.
It's kind of like, okay, we're going to hit you with a freight train. And
yes.
So, I can look back now, 7 years ago, and see where, I went through foreclosure. My dog died. My dad passed away. I lived for a year and a half house sitting, trying to keep my head down so that I could get through the financial problems of having just enough money that it could be taken away from me. And, I look back at that now, and I don't know how I would have gotten in this moment being, talking to people on the show. I didn't envision this. I didn't see this coming. The first time I walked in the studio, somebody invited me, and that was George, 2 or 3 years ago. I was a guest on helping somebody out on the show, and I thought, well, this is fun. I like this, Mm-hmm. But I never envisioned this. This was not something I had in my framework until probably a year ago when I went, right. This is what Spirit's saying, that we need to have something where we can bring everybody in the alternative healing field to have common ground.
Right.
The competition needs to stop. Because it calls to people.
It's not even about that. When I first started working over at Psychic Eye, the other place, Psychic Eye, when I first started working over there was another psychic there, and she kept saying, well, you're better than I am. You're better than I am. They're all going to come to you. And I said, you don't realize that there are people at your level, and they need you. They don't need me.
That's right.
Because there's plenty for everybody. Believe me, if that job isn't good enough, I'm certain Spirit's got another one for you.
Oh, yeah. It's about since the first of the year. Well, you and I have kind of been going through the same thing.
Yes.
It's been very sporadic with people coming. And about 3 weeks ago, I said, okay, just let them come. I'm not going to try and control this anymore. And all of a sudden, it was like
that's what I
tap
said.
came open.
The floodgates are just opening like crazy. It's just been incredible.
And people are wanting to know what's going on, and they're wanting to find out. I have someone that I've been talking to in Utah. I've actually started working on Skype now.
Good.
I had a Skype session with someone where we actually did a soul retrieval.
Yeah. Good.
You know, and I thought, well, how's this going to work? And I just kind of heard this laughing, and I'm thinking, I give up. I'll just do what they say at the time, and you know, and away we go.
You just do it like you do it if they're there in front of you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, because it's out of space and out of time, so it doesn't matter if they're in Seattle like this person was, and I'm sitting in Las Vegas. It doesn't matter, and it still works.
Well, even the timelines are coming down.
Yeah.
Because going back and forth in time is really more achievable now than ever before.
Well,
your work you do, you go back in time.
I do, yeah. It was. I did another one the other day where I went back like 18 generations and fixed a problem back there that was somebody had tinkered with. We untinkered it.
Yes,
you know?
yes. You got to undo the do.
Yeah. So anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything else? I think we pretty much covered it about the full moon and just telling everybody, just hold on. Just hold on and watch.
Well, this is going to be a year of many surprises. The good news is we're going in a positive way. So even if you think it's not going to be right, believe me, it's probably going to be better than you possibly could ever imagine. They are good surprises. They're not bad surprises this year. And you're going into a better place.
Yeah.
Better frame of mind, more prosperity, more love, more happiness, more joy, finding out who you are, where you're supposed to be and what you're supposed to be doing. All of that's coming if you aren't already in that place.
Yeah, I was telling somebody the other day, they said, well, I can't understand what's coming out of this. And I said, I guarantee you something will. It's always a mixed bag.
Always.
In the moments when it's at its darkest, and you think, what can possibly come out of this? And the stories that move us, I've noticed this on Facebook, the ones that, it's easy to see now, the ones that have a gazillion hits on them, it's usually something that touches the heart, and there's something that happened that people stepped out of their comfort zone, or they took adversity. There's that one guy who was, he couldn't even walk. He was a paratrooper. Have you seen that one where he was a Native American and he couldn't walk? He had 2 braces and whatever.
I didn't see that one.
And somebody that does yoga said this guy was in so much pain, and he'd gain, because he couldn't walk, he was gaining weight, and he was, it's an ugly cycle. And somebody in yoga, the guy said, I had to do something, so started working with him in yoga. He's running. This guy's running now. I mean, he had stress fractures all over his body from jumping out of airplanes.
Wow.
And this video, I've seen it come back around now about 3 or 4 times, and I can't think of the name of it, but it's amazing, and it shows how not only did they show the difference, but they showed part of the process where he would try and walk, and he said, I have fallen down more than you know, and I just kept getting up. And that's the deal. You just keep getting up. You just keep getting up. It's hard.
One step at a time. That's all you've got to take is just one step.
And there are some of us who don't like to ask for help.
You think?
And so it's breaking the pattern. Maybe you ask for help all the time, and maybe you need to rely more on yourself. Or maybe you never ask for help, and you need to ask for help. It's breaking the pattern of something.
I was one of those people that would never ask for anything.
Yeah, me too.
And let me tell you, Spirit taught me to break that real fast, because the less I asked, the worse trouble I had. And the less I asked, the worse trouble I had. Pretty soon I was more than willing to ask for anything I needed. And if you don't ask, you don't receive. So it's really a good time to start asking.
Well, that was the deal when I broke my leg. I mean, I couldn't get anywhere. I mean, it was probably one of the most vulnerable times in my life, because I remember going through security because my dad had passed away, and I was going through security in a wheelchair with crutches and all this stuff, and they couldn't put me through they couldn't put me through the magnetic thing. And so they said, well, we're going to have you stand up so we can pat you down. And they said, can you stand? And I looked at him and said, well, if you can hold me on either side. Well, they said, well, we can't do that. And I said, well, then
I can't stand.
I couldn't put any weight, And so that's just, But I learned that it's okay to ask, because in my world, if I asked, I'd failed.
Yeah,
So-
in mine too. That's
Yeah,
the way I was
yeah.
raised. You never ask for anything.
Right.
Ever.
Ever. Never ask for anything.
But I'm
ever.
a good asker now, and I'm a good receiver, and I'm also a good giver now. So
Yeah,
I
I've
can
noticed.
do a balance.
I've noticed. So where can they get a hold of you?
702-583-1517. That's where they can get a hold of me.
Yep, and you do private readings and
I do private readings. I do quantum energy.
Healing.
We're getting ready to do some more expansions coming up, so we're going into new and different things.
yeah, that's really good. This on the full moon, April 4th, I'm doing a full moon ceremony at Intentional Healing Center, which is on Russell and Pecos, and it's filling up. I'm amazed
yeah.
at how many people are coming to this. So if you think you want to go to that, you need to go to meetup.com and look at Shamanic Song. You can send me an email at info at shamanicsong.com, shamanicsong.com, and let me know, and I'll figure out where we're going to put you, because the room is only so big.
Yeah.
We end up outside under the moon. We always do. I'm going to be gone. I will be here next week. I'm not sure who I'm going to have on. I'm working on something, so I don't want to say it yet, but I will be here next week. The week after, Kara Keating's going to come on and take my place, because I'll be in Canada. I don't get back until the night of the 14th. Lots of stuff going on. If you like Soul Chat, go to our Facebook page. It says Soul Chat LV. Type it in and like our page. And if you want to watch us on YouTube, all the shows are there from last May, from when we started. You can go to youtube.com, type in Soul Chat LV, spaces between Soul and Chat and LV. And I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers, because then I can just put youtube.com/Soul Chat. That's what I can do.
Yeah.
So if you like that. You also, if you subscribe, send me an email after you subscribe that says Soul Chat lv@gmail.com, and I'll send you a free copy of the song, which you're going to hear really shortly here. Other than that, thanks for listening. Next week, if things are shifting and changing and you don't know what to do, just sit down and trust that it's coming, because winter doesn't last forever. Spring shows up. Summer doesn't last forever. Autumn shows up.
Yeah.
It's all part of the cycle.
And if you're not sure where you're going, just sit still.
Thanks for listening and watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye. See ya.
Looking back at life as it's been before, holding on to things that might have